Did money from Minnesota taxpayers earmarked to feed hungry children wind up in the hands of a Somali terrorist group? The allegations center around a massive welfare fraud case being brought in Minnesota. A 78th defendant was charged just today. And now reports are coming out that some of the stolen money may have wound up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, a Somali-based terror group. In response, President Trump says he intends to end deportation protections for about 700 Somali nationals in Minnesota, calling Minnesota a, quote, hub for Somali gang networks. So what are the facts on the ground? Investigative correspondent Rich McHugh is at the federal courthouse in Minneapolis, Minnesota for us tonight. Rich, what are you learning?
Hi, Elizabeth. Well, we're at the federal courthouse where that 78th indictment came down just a few hours ago. All of it tied to Feeding Our Future. That's the corrupt nonprofit at the center of all of this fraud. We spoke with current and former federal sources, and they tell us billions have been stolen since 2019, that Minnesota is just riddled with fraud, and that a lot of this money goes back to Somalia, and a cut of all that money has gone to the Al-Qaeda-linked terror group Al-Shabaab. But I want to reset this for viewers because it's complicated. This all stems from Feeding Our Future. That's the largest COVID fraud ever. These criminals opened more than 200 federal child nutrition program sites throughout Minnesota, and sites lied, claimed to be serving meals to thousands of children a day. They created fake attendance rosters, fake invoices, and the government reimbursed them.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at CD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are headed back on over to the home of Ilhan Omar, Minnesota. Why? Because Minnesota is the state where fraud is endless. It's endless and it never ends. And Ilhan Omar hates when we expose it and when we talk about it. Why? Because, seems like a lot of her folks, engage in this stuff somewhat disproportionately when you're talking about, categories and groups of, people residing in Minnesota. And it's not wrong to point these things out or to follow up on them or to even talk about it. Last time when I did a video on this topic, I told you guys I could go on and on and on and on and on concerning the fraud. And I wasn't just talking. I was telling the truth. So let's carry on. As you can see here, woman is first charged in Minnesota autism fraud scheme, also tied to Feeding Our Future. Everything goes back to this Feeding Our Future scam. Now, just really quickly, just to get some of you guys caught up, I know a lot of you know about this already, but I want to play this video first, just for those who have not been aware or may not be aware of what the Feeding Our Future scam is. So I'm going to roll this clip first, and then we're going to get back into this article here.
A $250 million fraud scheme. Already 77 people, many of them Somali immigrants, have been charged in one of the largest taxpayer-funded scams in U.S. history. Minnesota, home to the largest Somali community in America, has become the center of this massive investigation. This is the Feeding Our Future scandal, a pandemic-era scheme in which defendants allegedly stole over $250 million meant to provide meals for low-income children. Instead of feeding kids, prosecutors say the money went toward luxury homes, high-end cars, jewelry, overseas transfers, and an entire network of shell companies. According to the DOJ, the conspirators submitted fake invoices, fabricated meal counts, and even staged photos to make it look like they were serving millions of meals that never existed. In some cases, they claimed to feed more children than lived in entire neighborhoods. A federal jury found Amy Bach, the founder of Feeding Our Future, and Salim Ahmed Saeed guilty of conspiracy, bribery, wire fraud, money laundering. Federal officials say more arrests may still be coming.
Okay, now let's get back into this article here concerning this autism scam. This is so unfortunate. You hate to see it because these are vulnerable people where the tax dollars are supposed to be going to as far as those who are in need. And instead, it goes to folks that are just fraud and scamming the system. Look at this. A 28-year-old woman has been charged with wire fraud for her alleged role in a $14 million autism fraud scheme, announced the U.S. Attorney's Office. Asha Farhan Hassan, shout out to Somalia, was also charged in connection with the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, for which she received $465,000. She sent hundreds of thousands of dollars abroad and even bought real estate in Kenya. And what did we talk about in the last video concerning all this money that they keep sending abroad and the possible connection to the terrorist organization Al-Shabaab in Somalia? We've talked about this in great length over the last two videos. I'm not going to discuss any more of that right now. This is some serious matter that should be looked into even more. We don't know for certain. I don't know for a fact that this is where the money's going, but reports have come out concerning this. And every time we look into these schemes and this fraud, money is always being sent abroad. But I digress. Hassan's attorney, Ryan Pakya, I think, told 5 Investigates reporter Ryan Ratchey, I can't read anybody's name, that his client is cooperating with the investigation and plans to plead guilty. Asha Hassan is someone who in her heart wanted to start the business for the right reasons. She wanted to do the right thing, he said. But nonetheless, Asha knew at some point that the fraud began and she let it continue for a while. Oh, she got greedy. She got greedy. She put her hands in the cookie jar one too many times. But by the looks of it, the amount of people that have gone down in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, even if she put her hand in the cookie jar one time, she wasn't getting away. Okay, they're now on number 78 as far as those who have been charged concerning the Feeding Our Future scam. But what I want to do next is this. Let's take a moment to watch a very quick news clip concerning this situation, just so we can get a little bit more detail on what's going on with this woman, Asha Hassan, and unpack some more about what was happening with this particular autism fraud that she had going on.
Today we saw the first federal charges stemming from a massive fraud investigation into Minnesota autism centers and a connection to Feeding Our Future. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard live for us at the federal courthouse in Minneapolis. So Corin, what can you tell us about this overlap between these two massive fraud cases?
Yeah, Amy, Asha Farhan Hassan is the 76th Feeding Our Future defendant, but she's the first Autism Center's investigation defendant. And if you listen to the interim U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson or even Hassan's attorney, she's probably not going to be the last. So the case against her basically says that she started smart therapy centers and registered them as an autism service provider, and she had a couple of secret partners there as well. And what they did was they went out and they grabbed families and got kids and signed them up and then made sure all of those kids got autism diagnoses. Then they could bill Medicaid for services, and they did just that. They billed the maximum amount for all of those services, but they really provided almost none. In fact, they were hiring unqualified, uneducated, untrained family members and friends to allegedly provide these services. Meanwhile, they're paying kickbacks to the parents of these kids. In fact, sometimes they had to compete with other supposed autism centers to keep these kids. So in all, they billed about $14 million for autism services. And while all that's going on, they started to join Feeding Our Future, and they billed for feeding children, as many as 1,200 kids allegedly being fed every single day of the week. That ended up being a total of almost $500,000 more billed to the government.
You know how many people are going down in just this little autism scheme that she had here? What did he say? That secret families, all type of people allegedly working for this autism facility that were unqualified, bunch of family members and friends giving kickbacks to family members and friends, giving kickbacks to those of the families that participated. So many people are going to go down in just this autism fraud alone, this independent of the Feeding Our Future scam. You guys are wild in Minnesota, man. You guys are something else. This is crazy. The fraud never ends in Minnesota.
All right. So, Corin, you talked with Hassan's attorney about this case today, right? So, there's something about wire fraud in here. There's a charge. Am I reading this right, that they're planning to fight that?
No, not likely. Actually, Ryan Pasiga is her defense attorney, and he told me she's probably going to plead guilty in the next few weeks. He said she really kind of initially intended to do good here, but like a lot of other people who get involved in these programs, she got wrapped up, she saw loopholes, and she jumped through them. He called this basically a perfect storm, though. He said, a lot of business owners are willing to take advantage, just general public, the community willing to take advantage, and a huge failure in government oversight.
Now, speaking of government oversight, that's clearly a thing that does not exist in Minnesota. Okay? Because look at this article here that I want to read to you as we bring this video to a close. Look at this here. Audits, lack of security reviews left Minnesota SNAP system vulnerable for breaches and fraud. Oh, not EBT fraud, the EBT. Everybody was complaining, whining, and crying about wanting their EBT. What was it, about 2-3 weeks ago? But in Minnesota, the doors are wide open for EBT scams, okay? Because as it pertains to government oversight, that's just something that doesn't exist over there. Let's check this article out here. This is crazy. You guys are wilding out in Minnesota. The EBT fraud is crazy. The agency that oversaw Minnesota's Supplement Nutrition Assistant Program did not perform required security reviews of a computer system critical to the program's operation, according to audits reviewed by 5 investigators. In 2020, and again in 2023, the state's federal single audits found the Minnesota Department of Human Services did not complete a recent information system security review of the system that determines who is eligible to receive benefits. Oh, everybody's getting free EBT in Minnesota. That system holds vast amounts of personal private data, and the more than 440,000 Minnesotans who rely on SNAP benefits. According to the audits, the failure to perform those checks could allow security gaps and vulnerabilities of the system to go undetected, which can increase the risk of security breach and fraud. Because you got all these people's personal information that I guess are just going out there, and now you're getting all type of random phone calls, and God forbid, people knocking on your door, trying to sell you something or trying to rob you, trying to kick in the door, if you know what I mean. This stuff happens every day, ladies and gentlemen. In both instances, officials at DHS cited a lack of resources in the department as the reason for not completing reviews. I'm not interested in excuses, a lack of resources. If you guys would stop stealing the resources in Minnesota, you wouldn't have a lack of resources, right? The commissioner of Minnesota's Department of Children, Youth and Families, which took over the administration of SNAP in 2024, said the security reviews of the system are up to date. Our security plan was reviewed and certified in March of 2024, and our team is currently undergoing the process right now to secure and certify for 2025. Tiki Brown said in a recent interview, but individuals who rely on SNAP benefits and whose sensitive information is kept in that computer system say they're concerned this impacts the trust in public assistance programs. I'm pretty much giving them everything but my non-existent dairy. Huh? I'm pretty much giving them everything but my non-existent diary. Okay. My non-existent diary, said Mateo. How these names kill me, man. Mateo Halbesleben. Okay. That is information that, no, I don't necessarily want people having. Halbesleben said when he first applied for public assistance, he was required to submit all kinds of information. It's medical records, health records, He said during an interview this month, my lease, I have to upload that every time that I apply for it. The state's Maxis system uses that information to determine who is eligible for SNAP benefits and how much money they receive each month. The recent federal government shutdown put a spotlight on SNAP. In mid-October, the USDA told program recipients there would be insufficient funds in the program if the shutdown continued. Recipients didn't receive their benefits for more than a week amid a legal fight over funding of the program. It's really scary, he said. In the interview with 5 Investigates, Commissioner Brown acknowledged the seriousness of the audit's finding and the potential consequences of security breaches or fraud in the program. I think we could end this here, folks. We could end it here, right? Because the fraud in Minnesota never ends. I'll definitely be back with some more videos concerning these matters because it's ongoing. It's truly endless when it concerns Ilhan Omar and the gang. With all that being said, that does it for today's dudes. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platform. And please do not forget to follow me on Telegram at CD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.